If your spouse is in the room, do yourself a favor. Save this video to watch later and come back when you're alone. All right, now that you're alone, let's talk about a very sensitive subject: wasting money on tools. I know, there's no such thing as a bad tool, but I have some tools that I spent some money on and I just don't have a use for them. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments down below or add some tools that you've wasted money on. Let me show you. I didn't even bother dusting this one off. If you don't know what this thing is, it's a Porter Cable 557 biscuit joiner or plate joiner. Don't get me wrong, it's a great tool. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's got a small blade that comes out and cuts slots for biscuits. Has this nice fence on here that allows you to adjust how far down off the surface the blade is going to plunge. And you can even take it beyond 90 so that you can reference the outer edge of miter joints. Once you cut your slots, you use these little biscuits to put them in the slots, and it allows you to butt two pieces up together and the top surface will be perfectly flush. But honestly, I took a couple of pieces of 2x with some packing tape on it to make clamping calls, and it does effectively the same thing. I just don't ever use this thing. Next up, corner clamps. Does anybody use these? I've tried. They're useless to me. So you're supposed to use these to take two pieces of wood and join them together and get a perfect 90-degree angle after you tighten these little things up, but you can see it's a little annoying. And if you have a long piece of wood, they don't sit right in the clamps until you get the clamps tight. Maybe if you build picture frames, they're useful. I just don't ever use them. And don't even get me started on this crazy contraption. I don't know. Not sure why I bought it, but you can see it's like brand new. Not a drop of dried glue anywhere on it. I think I tried it once and couldn't get it to hold right, so it just sits in the drawer. This marking gauge, what a waste. I'm glad I didn't spend a lot of money on it. And it's not because I do a lot of power tool work. I do hand tool work also. Even if you only do power tool work, you still have occasion where you need a good marking gauge. The problem with this one is the way it's constructed. I have two little points here, which this is for if you need to mark for a mortise. And they close down pretty tight, a little less than 1/4 of an inch. The problem is trying to use this side when you only need to mark one line. These things are in the way. Now I know you could slide this out and get rid of one, but now you have that one there. Suppose you could use that one to mark where you want your line, but now you have this thing in the way, and I've stabbed myself quite a few times with this trying to mark something. Before you spend money on a marking gauge, check out the way it's constructed, the way the pins are laid out. Definitely don't get one like this. I just don't like it. Better yet, build one yourself. Paul Sellers and Rex Kruger both have really good videos on how to build your own marking gauge. Here's another dusty tool. It's a sanding kit. You put these drums in your drill press. I've used it a couple of times, but honestly, it's not that great. It's supposed to help you sand inside curves on your drill press. Just don't use it. So what about these? Pistol grip clamps. Yeah, this one's from Harbor Freight, I think. It's a little chintzy. Don't use it. And don't tell me to spend more money, because I bought the Irwins. I've broken quite a few of these trying to get a little bit more clamping pressure out of it. Squeeze down on it some more, this plastic piece pops off, the handle breaks. I really don't use these for woodworking. They're occasionally helpful for other projects around the house, like maybe you're working on a fence and you need to hold something real quick. Yeah, they'll work for that. But as far as woodworking, I don't use them. Chisels. Not saying you don't need them, you definitely need them, even if you're a power tool woodworker. But don't waste money on cheap chisels. Yeah, you can get them sharp with a lot of work. The problem is they're not going to hold an edge. So you're really just frustrating yourself trying to get some work done with cheap chisels. You're much better off trying to find something older that's a better quality steel. These old Craftsman are WF. I think it's Western Forge. These are made in America, and they'll hold an edge pretty well. Something like this is really hard. This will definitely hold an edge, and so will this thing. If you'd rather spend your weekends in the shop instead of at flea markets, these Buck Brothers chisels that you can get at the hardware stores are pretty good. They hold an edge pretty well. Or you can get something like this. I believe these come from Europe. I don't remember offhand, but I'll put a link down below. These are really nice. While we're talking about chisels, these honing guides, they're not great. I haven't had much luck with them at all. This one here I even took apart and filed the inside to get it to work a little better. But when you put the chisel in there, it's just really hard to get it to hold the chisel perfectly parallel to this wheel. And these wheels are really sloppy anyway. So when you're trying to hone your chisel, it'll wobble side to side. Even if you're putting pressure down, you could still get it to wobble. This is a honing guide that I built, and if you're interested, I have a whole video that shows how I built it. It's much wider and sits nice and sturdy. It doesn't wobble side to side. Gets you a nice straight edge and 90 degrees to the back of the chisel. If you don't want to go through the trouble of building something like this, spend more money than buying those cheap ones. Here's something else I have that I never use. Stanley number 59. It's a doweling jig. Comes with all different size inserts for different size dowels. This is kind of like the Biscuit Joiner. I just don't use dowels very often, so this thing just sits in the box. So what tools have you spent money on that you don't use? Comment down below so if I see it, I don't buy it, because I have enough tools that I spent money on that just sit around. I'd rather save my money and buy some wood. Let me know. Thanks for watching.